Aloha! Welcome to the 11th episode of the 8th series of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Today with us, surf legend, shaper, surfer, Bill Hamilton. We discuss with him about his amazing stories, surfboards, and much more. Aloha, Mr. Hamilton. Welcome to the show. Where are you today?
Today, I am at my home of nearly 52 years on Kauai. I just finished shaping for the day, so I've come to meet with you to talk story with you. So
amazing! Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity and interesting, of course, for the audience that will listen to us today. I have a lot of questions for you. The first question I ask everyone on this show is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
The most important thing in surfing is to have the connection of the ocean and all the surroundings, including all the human beings and, all of nature. You're communicating on a very high level when you go surfing with nature. There's something that happens on a real probably a very nuclear level when you enter the salt water. It registers with your body on a very, very positive level. So that's why the word stoked was made, because when you exit the ocean, you bring this vitality of life with you that from your experience in the ocean. So just remember that I think the main thing is that when you go surfing, every time you go surf is a gift. It's a gift to you and it's a gift to everybody around you.
Yeah, we don't remember that all the time, right?
I mean, no, not all the time, because we're caught up in the athletic of it all. How much air we got, or how big our barrel ride was, or whatever. That's all. That has nothing to do with the essence of surfing. Surfing is about you actually experiencing a very clear moment of being in the moment when you surf. So if you can remember that, every time you catch a wave, you might have gone out there thinking about some problems or something, but the moment you caught that wave, you're not thinking about that. You're lost in a moment of time that registers you to be completely in that moment, and in that sense, you're actually receiving a gift in knowing that.
Definitely, it's. I totally agree with what you're saying. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to be on the wave and to surf. And sometimes we receive gifts. Sometimes also we receive wave gifts, right? In the sense that people they tell us, take that wave, and you don't expect, right?
Well, there you go. I mean, the thing is that it's our playground, right? I mean, we should go out there and play and not have I mean, before, when I was growing up and I was younger, I saw, the localism. I participated in it. I was one of the, I was one of the guys who supported that territorial idea. But it's really, I've been in the water now I've been surfing waves for nearly 65 years. So I realize now that it's really important to be able to connect with the experience that you're having out there with the ocean, and you're catching a time capsule that was made specifically for you when it arrives thousands of miles away, or maybe perhaps many hundreds of miles away, that you get to stand on top of. You get to literally walk on top of water for a few moments, and that's that's what's so interesting about our sport, is that we get to do that on a daily basis, but it's never the same. It's unlike any other sport in the world, because our playground changes every minute of every day in every place in the world. So it's an interesting connection that we have, and I think being a surfer and being able to go beyond just the idea of being an athlete in the water and being able to rip, but I mean, I've ripped most of my life, and the fact is that I have a license to fly. You know, when you get to the point where you have a license to fly, and you can see the wave in its entirety from the very beginning to the end, and be able to calculate all those moves and spread your wings and have that freedom. It's a really and essentially it's a beautiful gift to be able to do that.
You're talking about localism. Of course, today localism has a different connotation than in the past, right? Because too many people in the water, so it's kind of
It's human beings, right? Human beings are very territorial,
yeah.
and it's just the nature of the human species. And I recently was in the Minto Islands, and I saw it happening out there. Where it's really a very uncluttered kind of an environment. But I saw a boat arrived and people jumped off, and all of a sudden the vibe changed because all these guys they're lost in the idea of surfing being kind of a physical, athletic kind of a expression of what they're doing, like skateboarding or skiing or something like that. But I've arrived in my life at a point where it's really quite a spiritual experience. And when you ride thousands and thousands and thousands of waves like I have, and you've attained this mastership that I have done, you'll realize, I mean, I'll be 75 in August, and I've been riding waves since I was 10 years old. And so the communication that I have with the ocean is at a very high level, and I've been through every possible scenario you can imagine in the ocean. Nearly dying on a number of occasions. Being pressed into caves and held underwater for 3 waves, and I can go on and on about stories about the ocean. But the essence of what I have to say and my experience is that take into the account of what's happening in the water the moment you hit the water with your body, the moment you start paddling, the feeling, the excitement you have to get onto the lineup and to ride the wave, and not necessarily to dominate anything. It's not about dominating or to exhibit your skill. It's about um, it's about accepting a gift that is being given to you from thousands of miles away, especially for you to ride up on top of. It's a really simple concept, but for me, I'm at I see it at a much higher level now than I ever have. And I think that's probably what I'd like to pass on to people is to realize, to be conscious of the fact that, I mean, I taught surfing. I founded the first surf school in Honolulu on Kauai in 1974. And my first lesson to the people I was teaching was to observe, to sit and observe the ocean, to watch what the ocean is doing, where the waves break, and where the people are, and all the different things that you're going to put yourself into before you even get there. I mean, you have to study the environment. I mean,
Yeah.
What kind of wave are you riding? Is it a black diamond? What is that?
It's important what you say because today people do not spend the time to look at the ocean. They just take the board and they run into it, right? While it's also for safety. It's to look at the currents and to look how the waves are formed and shaped. Is
Yes.
we are maybe too eager to surf, right? We are too.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's I can't hardly blame them. I mean, that is the stoke of surfing. I mean, it is an especially highly energized kind of feeling to be able to go and surf. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, I have never stopped. I still surf today, and I still surf with some authority because I never really stopped ever, except when I got injured in snowboarding. I was out for a year with bilateral Achilles. I tore both my Achilles, so in that sport. But and I'd have to say, snowboarding versus surfing is apples and oranges because when you ride a mountain every day, you get to know the pattern of everything. But you can't ride the ocean every day with that same kind of authority. You have to be able to look at it and be aware of all its subtle changes, and it happens in with every tide, with every day, with every wind, with every swell, with every it's such a beautifully vital sporting environment that there's par none. Surfing is a very, very special sport. I would just say, I've reached the very pinnacle of my career in the sense that I've done so much and seen so much. But the end run of my experience is just to understand that when you paddle out and you're part of that playground and that environment, that it doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to everyone. You have to have, in the human sense of the word, you have to have respect, and you have to have some sort of humility, and you have to be very conscious and observant of what's going on in the water, because you can injure people if it's all about you. If that's all you're thinking about is you, then you're going to fuck somebody up. So
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I agree with you. And a question that maybe they ask you a million of times, but I'm curious that what was the best wave of your life, and specifically, what makes you remember it? It's like a smell. It's like a light. Is something? Is energy? When you think about it, what was that wave? The best one?
oh, you want me to narrow it
The
down?
most
I can think
memorable
of
one.
100 experiences. Okay, there's one that I will go back on now and then. It happened in probably 1970, 1969 or 1970, off the wall. The right hander off pipeline, backdoor pipeline. I took off on about a head high wave, and I got barreled, but the barrel consumed me, and I became part of this wave that lasted. It seemed like it lasted forever, but it actually closed out. I was in this room where everything collapsed on me, but I was still in this capsule. It was like I was in one of those clear pills that actually had a dark. It actually I couldn't see anything, and I was going, "This is it. I'm just going to get my ass kicked." And then it opened up again, and I go for another 30 or 40 feet, and then it closed again, and it would be like, oh my God, I'm gonna get so wasted on this wave. And then it opened up again. It did it like nearly 4 times. At the end, it spit me right out and up in the air, and boom. And I'll never forget that, because it was one of those things where I'm involved in something that was so in that moment that I thought it was like all I could think about was, okay, I'm gonna eat shit. I'm gonna eat shit. But I never did. It was like pretty classic, but I And then there's the worst wipeout of my life. Okay. Pipeline. Once again, I lived at Pipeline for my family, and I lived there for 4 years, right at they refer to it as the pipe house. But before it was the pipe house, it was the property I lived on. I actually made a corral for my wife, and she had a horse, an Appaloosa, that we kept there. But so, I was at Pipeline, and I served Pipeline alone many times. And this one time I'd gone out. It was probably about 8 feet. It had been blown out for a couple of days, and it started glassing off. And I was like the only guy out. And I took off on a wave, and it hit me. Uh, it hit me right in the middle of the head and drove me through my surfboard like a spike. And I ended up getting. I hit the bottom, but instead of hitting the bottom, I got driven into a crack in the reef. So and amongst all this turbulence, I'm trying to get up, but I can't get up because my shoulders, the only thing that is above the reef is my head. My body's submerged in a crack. So this is wave number one, right? So I'm down for the count for wave number one. I got a cut on my forehead and a cut between my shoulder blades where the board hit me. And I'm not worried about that. I'm just like going, okay, I'm 21 years old and I'm in really good shape. And I'm going, I'm in a really critical situation here. So the next wave breaks and sends this whitewater across the reef like a big carpet of whitewater. And somehow I got turned around and twisted and gotten pulled out of that crack, but I was still underwater for, on one breath still. And then when I came up, when I finally came up, I got maybe one half of a breath of air, and the next wave just rolled me over. And I just got basically was like a wet wash rag rolling in with this wave. And I was when I finally came out of it, I was about maybe 10 or 15 feet from the beach. I swam, I mean, basically dog paddled and climbed belly up to the sand like a lizard and passed out on my own vomit. And I don't know how long I was gone. I was gone because I was surfing alone, right? There was nobody around in those days. There's nobody around. So yeah, that was another really one of my close calls of actually getting eaten up by the ocean. But there was the joy part and then the not so joyful part. So that happens in the ocean. So remember that you surf long enough, you will be humiliated and you will be tried to the nth degree of your limits.
Yeah, like you said before, it's very important to stay humble because all the time the ocean is much stronger than ourselves. No matter how good we are in surfing, the ocean always is unpredictable.
My greatest teacher in humility has been the ocean. There's nothing larger than the moments that you have before you, and sometimes you make decisions and you're going to get your ass handed to you on a platter. So.
Mm. Definitely. And surfing back in Hawaii in the 70s was different than today, right? In terms of for sure about people. Right.
Well, yeah, of course. Yes. Yes, of course. We always say there was no crowds back in those days, but there were crowds, and the crowds were, I think, relative to the generations that were using the water at that time. We were we were going from from the late 60s into the early 70s. We're going from longboards into experimenting with shortboards. So we were all becoming more and more aggressive in our entry into the waves. Right? We were taking it to the next level, whatever that was, because our equipment was getting smaller. We were able to get inside the barrel, and we're starting to be able to turn on waves that were never really turned on before. So and there was a lot of people interested in doing that. So all around the world, Australia, we had a lot of Australians. We had South Africa was getting interested, Japan, Peru. It was, I think, surfing in some areas has been more crowded than others. The North Shore wasn't obviously not nearly as crowded as it is today, by any means. That's comparing apples to oranges once again, but I think that it was an interesting time because we're literally breaking new ground. When I moved to Hawaii in 1966, I was the next generation of my generation was Eddie Aikau, Jock Sutherland, Jeff Hackman, Barry Kanaipuni. Later on would be Jerry Lopez. I was part of the next generation of the guys like Greg Knoll and Ricky Gregg and Felipe Pomar and Peter Cole and all the great pioneers. We were the next generation after them. And it was always, in the movies, it was always like the biggest thing was riding Waimea. So I rode Waimea a number of times, and I actually borrowed boards from Jose Angel, who became a very good friend of mine. He and I would work out during the summer and run and swim together. But we our generation decided with this new equipment that we were going to ride big waves with a little bit more authority. So Waimea basically is a stand-up takeoff virtual drop, and that's it. You can't really perform on it. So we did a lot of surfing at Sunset and Pipeline, and that was kind of our main grounds of expression. And we were, unbeknownst to us, we were developing the future of surfing on the equipment that we were inventing and making at the time. So that was, in my prime, my early days as a early 20s and 30-year-old person, I was right at the very edge of that, that generation of time. And it's what's happening today. It's just, it's amazing what's happening today. It's beautiful. It blows my mind. But yeah.
Those time they made a difference in the history of surfing, but every era has its own.
Every era, it raises the bar just a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Because of technology and because of the fact that a lot of the young people today when they were surfing, when they were young, they actually had equipment that was made for them. We were, as a young person, I was learning on boards that weighed 35 pounds, were 10 feet long. And they went straight and they didn't have any kind of performance to them at all. So we were called, our generation were called the performers because we were started to learn how to make moves on these boards as they got a little bit lighter, and then throughout all these different eras of time, I remember in 1974 when I gave up the game of trying to be a professional surfer, me along with a handful of other people being the very first professional surfers ever, trying to make money at the game. We never could because there just wasn't any money in it back then. I mean, we were making out. I mean, I won a tournament. It'd be like I made $2,000 for first place, and then it gradually and over the time it became more and more gradual. But I remember meeting in 1974. I met Sean Thompson and those guys, Peter Townend and Ian Carnes and all those guys that came from Australia. And those guys were big in changing the surfing environment with their aggression, with their equipment. And it was really, I saw it as a changing of the guard. I remember leaving the North Shore, then coming to Kauai to live full time, no more competition, and going, this is really the changing of the guard. And they raised the bar another couple of notches by doing what they did. And it just it's kind of gone that way with every generation since then, from 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, now, 2023. It's an amazing, it's been an amazing process. And
it was a good, I mean, a good, great thing that you were able to experience so many surfers. Yeah, and I have a question.
Yeah, I got to be, I mean, I became, when I was young, I started surfing in 1959. By the time I was in 1966, I was considered one of the best surfers in the world, and I moved to Hawaii and never really went back to the California and that whole part of surfing. I became a Hawaiian surfer, and I ended up becoming a really good Hawaiian surfer, a legend in Hawaii, and I have been able to represent Hawaii for the last 35 or 40 years in all these different countries. So I'm really, really proud and happy that I pursued the sport of surfing the way I have and contributed to it in some ways. But and also my children too. I handed them. My parents didn't hand me surfing, but I handed them surfing. And it's like that's a gift. Your children got to thank you for that one. They don't. Well, they're stupid.
And actually, I will ask you the same question that I asked to Greg Knoll a couple of years ago. Everybody says that you are a legend, a surf legend, right? Do you consider yourself one?
When I was a kid, I was a little cowboy, right? When I was like 6 years old, I had two guns. I had a cowboy hat and two guns, and my legend was Wyatt Earp, right? Wyatt Earp from the old cowboy days, right? He was legendary, except he was dead. And I thought all legends were dead, right? So I grew up thinking, well, legend. And people started calling me, "You're a legend." I'm going, I looked up what legend was. It was like means you're, very famous kind of person. But I always felt like, well, I have a hard time with that. I can't, I don't hold myself above anybody else. I mean, I'm a human being like everybody else. In fact, to think that I'm something more than who I am is like, because my legends, the people I love are doctors and nurses and the people that really contribute to humanity. I haven't really contributed a lot to humanity in that sense, but so those are the real legends, the people that really, they commit their lives, the soldiers, the people that are out there committing their lives to things. I committed my life to myself and surfing. That's not like, that doesn't make me a great legend, but I got good at what I did, and I pursued this life from since I was a child, and I love the life I live. And if people consider me influential and they can learn from me, fine. I'm happy to teach them and share with them.
Yeah. In a certain way, you gave me the same answer that Greg Knoll gave me. He said, Alessandro, if you say so, if you say so, we were just a bunch of guys eating peanut butter sandwiches on the shore and then going and catch as many waves as we could. And,
Yeah.
and if that makes me a legend, I don't know, but that's what happened.
Well, I mean, if I am looked at as a legend, then I'd be considered a master in other crafts and other works of life, right? So if I am a master of what I've done, all I can say is that what I've learned is what I told you in the beginning of this interview. And it's very important to listen to that, because the essence of what I've done in my life is I've filtered it and sensitized it to that point where, what you're doing is a gift, not only to yourself, but everybody around you.
No, definitely. It's very important what you said. And in your life, you met a lot of surfers. Some of them were famous, some of them were not famous. Was there a meeting with one of them that was particularly meaningful for you?
Yeah, when I was 18 years old, I was in the Duke Onomoko Surf Invitational for the first year. I eventually ran, that had been on for 23, 24 years. I was in there for 7 years. It was a surf meet that was created by Duke Onomoko for us. It was designed and it was actually an idea of Duke Onomoko's that he wanted the best surfers from all over the world to gather in one spot and surf big waves at Sunset Beach and compete with each other. And then at the end of the contest, all those surfers would get together and they would vote for the next year's invitees, right? So it was a contest for the very best of the best throughout the world, and it was a very huge honor to be involved with it. So I remember in 1968, I was invited to the 1968 meet, and I had just won my semifinal division. I actually made it to the semifinals. I made it to the finals that year, my first year in it, and I ended up going to the finals. In the 7 years I was there, I made it to those finals 3 years. So I did well in that meet. I had a great relationship with Sunset Beach. But getting back to my story, anyway, the ambassador and the business agent for Duke Onomoko's name was Kimo Wilder McVeigh, and he handled the singer Don Ho, and he also handled all of Duke's activities in Honolulu. And I remember he came down when I was getting out of the water, he came down. He was a city guy, he's dressed in white pants and white shirt and, and hard shoes. And he goes, Billy, come here. Somebody wants to meet you. I said, who? He goes, follow me. So I'm following him up the beach, and I see sand sliding into this guy that he's from the city. He's a business guy. I go, God, that must be really uncomfortable, right? So he's walking up the beach, and we get up to the grass, and I look up and I see the Duke Onomoko limousine. It has a hood ornament, has a surfer on it. And the back door of the limo's open, and I see the white pant leg of Duke Onomoko, and I go, wow. Duke wants to meet me? He goes, follow me, come here. I want to introduce you to Duke. So I get up there, and he goes, Duke, this is Billy Hamilton. And I extend my hand into the car, and this man puts his huge, dark Hawaiian paw around my hand. It's as big as a baseball catcher's mitt. My God. He had massive hands. To this day, my biggest experience is holding Duke Onomoko's hand, right? And he's looking at me with these eyes. This is the year that he passed away, and he's looking at me with these eyes, and he's burning a hole into my soul. And he said, I appreciate very much how you surf. You surf like an ocean bird. You and Paul Starr are my favorites in the tournament. Good luck to you. And I said, thank you so much, Duke. It's an honor to meet you. Thank you very much. And I said aloha, and I turned around and literally floated away thinking, I don't need to win another contest in my life. I just got crowned by the man himself. So that was a huge moment in my career, and proud of it. So
yeah, definitely meeting the Duke, and then especially him saying, like you surf like an ocean bird, is it's
Well,
beyond.
that's how he visualized my surfing. I think that's a great Hawaiian compliment, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But so at that time, like I saw the some pictures about like the ceremony of the awards and whatever. You guys were all very elegant at the end. You were talking about
Yes.
all wearing tie and suits.
Yeah, very much so.
It was very stylish as well.
And then also too, one of my first great Hawaiian experiences when I was 14 years old. I was serving the Makaha International Surfing Event. And I grew up with all the great, when I was a teenager, I grew up with all the great surfers, Mike Doyle and Joey Cabell, and, you name all the names in surfing, Mickey Dora. I knew all those guys. I was part of their club, I was a good surfer. I was aspiring to be like those guys, right? So I go out to, I'm following Joey Cabell out to Makaha, and it's about, maybe biggest waves I ever surfed in my life. There must have been 12 feet. The ball was at Makaha was at least 12 feet, and I'm paddling with Cabell, and he goes, Billy, stay right here, catch the first wave of the set, and make it all the way to the channel. This is where you're going to get all your points. I said, okay. So he's a lifeguard, so he paddles on out to the point and leaves me alone at the bowl. So here comes about like a 10-foot wave, and I paddle for all my life, and I stand up, and it's the longest, heaviest drop of my life, right? My heart's in my throat. I get into the channel and I make the wave, and I'm so excited. I am just like beyond myself. And I paddle back out, and there's no waves for quite a long time. But what I don't realize, in Hawaii, the currents go from the deep water they come from the shallow water and they go out into the deep water and they go straight out. So the current was taking me around the bowl and further up the point. So the next set comes, and here comes like a 3-wave, massive set, and I'm caught in the bowl, which is like, I mean, I bailed out on the first wave, and all I could do was, fortunately, I learned how to skin dive, so I was a pretty good diver. So I went down and hold on to the bottom, wait for a wave to go by, and come back up and go down again. And then I get up, but I know nothing about swimming in the whitewater to get back in. In Hawaii, you stay in the whitewater to bring yourself home. I get in the deep water, and I'm going out to sea. I'm going to a place next to Magaha called Clausmeyer's, which is another break that is going to eat me alive. And all of a sudden, I see this guy, this big black Hawaiian, and his name is Blue Makua. He's a real famous beach boy from Waikiki. And he comes out on this 11-foot board, and he paddles up. He goes, "Hey, boy, you need one ride?" I go, "Yeah, I need one ride." I hop on top, and he paddled me all the way to the shore, and I get off, and I go, "Wow, that was unbelievable. That was a great experience." But I remember that very clearly as one of my really first great experiences, and being, humbled by that event, but also being a part of something greater than myself,
Yeah.
being a part of surfing and part of people that were a part of surfing. I knew who the guy was. I was so proud of the fact that he saved me. It was like,
It's such an experience in all ways, from the person that saves you, from where you were, and the people we were with. So in your opinion, what was the best innovation that you witness in surfing, in the world of surfing? You were talking before about the shortboard, right? Like the progression between longboard and shortboard. But there are so many amazing things, exceptional things that happen in such a very short period of time. In your opinion, which one was the best, the most?
well, I mean, you're right about that. I mean, the evolution of it throughout it is marked by because of the invention of things behind the scenes had to get better. So with shorter boards, they had to make shorter blanks. They had to make lighter foam. Materials had to be lighter. Everything was going lighter and more high performance. So throughout that registry of that happening, probably right around 1968 on through the 70s, there was a lot of changes in there. But the biggest change I would say the most landmark change was Simon Anderson's application of the three-fin surfboard. Now, there'd been other experimentation in the 70s with different fin setups, but fins are really important to maneuverability of surfboards. So we went from single fins to three fins. And in doing so, it changed the entire design of the surfboard, the outline of the surfboard, the width of it, the flotation of it, the bottom contours. It put us on a whole nother train ride into the future that everything else was forgot after that particular invention. So I would say singularly, what Simon Anderson did back in that period of time was very, very profound.
Then also there was your transition between being a surfer and a shaper, right? So how did that start? You were
Well,
curious.
the thing is that in my tenure as a shaper of nearly 55 years, it's like I've seen a lot, I know a lot of shapers and I've seen a lot of shapers. And the thing is that some guys that don't surf or they do surf a little bit, but they have a real strong understanding of how water moves across designed surfaces in it's hydrodynamics, right? It's like boat designers are hydrodynamicists and surfboard designers deal with the law of hydrodynamics. And it's the marriage of things that are straight and things that are curved, right? So when you understand the connection of how things work, it doesn't matter really how that works. Because I know a couple of great shapers who aren't really great surfers, but who are great shapers that know how it all works. For me, I was a little bit one up because I was a good surfer. I had shapers making my boards, and some of the boards would not work the way I wanted them to. And I got to the point where I'm going to have to learn how to make my own equipment to do what it has to do. So there was a lot of self experimentation with my ability of being able to make a surfboard ride that made my surfboards what they are today because I knew what I wanted out of a surfboard. And if it didn't do it, I would experiment to where it came to the point where like, oh, that's what makes it work because I knew it made boards work and I knew how to ride them. So my boards became better and better and better. But sometimes, like I had Dick Brewer make me a surfboard in 19. I've been shaping for like 4 years and I decided, well, I need to go to school here. So I'm going to go have Mike Diffenderfer and Dick Brewer make me a board at the same time. And they did. And they each worked differently. Brewer's board, he was a great observation of hydrodynamics and he applied that and his board worked really good. So I learned from that. It doesn't, I mean, like I said, if you understand the laws of hydrodynamics and you know how to make that work in connection to what you're doing on a wave, then that's fine. I can't, I don't want to say one's better than the other, but I have to say that from my experience, I became a way better of a shaper than other shapers because I knew how to surf well.
Yeah, that definitely is a plus. Definitely is a plus. And
Yep.
the fact that you are testing those boards to yourself also was
Yeah, I mean, I was constantly testing my own equipment. And I also had good surfers riding my boards too. It's like guys would see me ride my boards. Oh, I want one like that. Jeff Ackman would want. I've made surfboards for a lot of good surfers, and throughout the decades, I've made lots of good surfers. I made all of Bruce and Andy Irons when they were growing up. All of his children, I made all their surfboards, and they always come back to me. We can't do this. Can we? Yeah, I make them boards, but I never claimed that. Thing is that as a shaper, and I tell all my friends who are shapers, I go, everybody when I was young, they go, when are you getting a real job, Hamilton? These guys were working 40 hours a week, busting their ass being carpenters and plumbers and electricians. I go, my job is just as important as yours, if not more so. They go, how's that? I said, because I'm giving them ability to go out and be stoked.
yeah, exactly. you give also a great opportunity to people. So it's no, definitely. Plus, a lot of people do not really know what is the work of a shaper, and
Yeah, no, it's really
yeah,
true. I mean,
yeah,
I can help people by asking them. Like tell everybody now, I'm a tailor. I'm a tailor. I'm going to make you a suit. I said, come to my shop. I'm going to measure the length from your armpit to the middle of your fingers, where you'll actually hold a board to find out exactly what width is going to be suitable for you, especially girls. You register that width between their arm and how they carry their board. That's the width that they use. Their thickness is basically based upon when you close your fist, you measure from their first knuckle to the back knuckle. It's like there's all these physical things that you can attribute to the shape of a surfboard with that it takes 100 years to understand. In my sense, it's taken me nearly 40 years to figure out, like, well, I call it the king's index. So it's like your body, how you're shaped is the way I'm going to shape your board. If you carry your weight from the waist down, your leg, you're heavy. If you're bottom heavy, I'm going to extend the thickness into the tail. If you're top heavy, you're going to have a front that's going to flow you. It's like there's all these different ways to shape surfboards for individual people, and some people require more than less, and less and more. And it's I mean it's as variable as the waves are variable. So that's how it is.
definitely. And in your opinion, what is the most important thing in shaping?
Um, it took me probably nearly 20 years to realize this, but you have to put the board up in your eyes and see it as a complete form from the tail to the nose and from the nose to the tail. And remember, from the nose to the tail is probably more important from the tail to the nose, because the water you're receiving, the water that's exiting starts in the front part of it. But really, I think really the important thing is understanding that what we've referred to as rocker, there's
Yeah,
two different kinds of rocker. You have a bottom rocker and you have a deck rocker. And a lot of shapers don't realize that there's a deck rocker that also conforms the water. You can have a real curvy bottom and a straight deck rocker that's going to take the rail. And when you set your rail into the water, it's going to transfer the water from the bottom and the deck at a different velocity. So it's going to pinch at the end of the tail and create either more friction or less friction. When you have a lot of rockers to the deck and a lot of rockers through the tail, you have like a banana kind of shape. It's going to be very maneuverable, but very slow. And those are the kind of rockers you want for like nose riding. Maybe a little straighter rocker in the nose, but lots of rocker to the tail on the deck and the bottom. So yeah, it's a bilateral kind of thing with shaping. First of all, you have to see it as a complete form, right? You have to see the rails and everything configured as one unit. It's like um, it's like the wing of a plane, right? So you have everything has to flow around with it with a certain kind of precision. Like with my boards, you were to stand my boards up and close your eyes, go to the very top of the nose and close your eyes and feel like the calipers of your hands. It'd go from thin on the rail, it'd go from thin to gradually thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, and then start releasing at a certain point and becoming thinner and thinner and thinner throughout the whole board. Because what that does is in an airplane, it's called a foil. The same thing with a surfboard. A foil wing it's thin at the entrance, it's thick through the center, and then it foils out to the tail and it creates lift. And this is the same thing applies to surfboards. So, people that make their rails from the same thickness from the nose to tail, they don't understand that concept. It's really important to understand that the foil of a surfboard is the same thing as a foil of a wing. And everything in the ocean is foil. Everything. So everything in the water, in the air is foil. Birds, fish. It's all nature. So
no, definitely. And yeah, I guess I wish more people would know that rather than just to try to shape surfboard for a kind of business, rather than to
yeah.
what is behind.
Well, I think since COVID, I think surfing has grown by another million people worldwide. So I mean, to tell you what, I mean, in Costco, I call them the entry level boards that like Jerry Lopez makes the soft top boards. I don't know whatever big corporation that's selling soft tops, I can only congratulate them for making a perfect entry level surfboard because they float, they're fast, they're stable and somewhat maneuverable, and you can take them to a certain level. But at a certain point, you need to get on a real surfboard to take it to your next level. You understand? So I'm not going to say like I knew Tom Moore, the guy who invented the Morey boogie board when I was a kid, and I told him right before he died, I said Tom, I said, our job here is to leave the world a better place we found it, and you did. You gave everybody a chance to play in the playground like we do as surfers. I said you gave them something to float on, and congratulations. I said, and so all these guys that are making these soft top boards, I'm not saying bullshit. I'm saying thumbs up, good for you, because it's one step forward into our world as being real surfers. And if you want to be a real surfer, you got to get rid of that soft top board and find a board that is made for you, a piece of equipment, sporting equipment that you can use on the mountains that rides to your liking,
Yeah. No, definitely. Then we will need definitely more surf pools around the world because there is no space anymore for for so many surfers like that. So we, in a certain way, if we don't go for like new ways of making people surf, the lineup will be so crowded and maybe dangerous. So at a certain point, we have to limit with the fact that
I agree with you. I mean, once again, it gets back to human beings, and it's all about human beings. I mean, the human species is the most diverse species on the planet, even more than insects. And I mean, we're all completely different, and we all have egos, or we don't have egos, or whatever it is. We all all human beings have attitudes about things. We all have an opinion about something or another. But the thing is, I mean, when it comes to a sport like skiing, I remember when I was surfing, I was going, I wonder if surfing ever is going to be as popular as skiing. And it didn't become like that for many, many years. But now surfing, I would say, is probably as popular, maybe even more popular than skiing now. But the thing is that human beings have to deal with human beings wherever they are. And it's not a controlled environment. There is no really starting line or finishing line because it's so variable, right? So it's and it can be also on a human level a conflict of interest, right? It's my wave. Well, no, it's not my wave. It's your wave. No, it's both our waves. I mean, it go on and on forever. So, as far as you're right about schools will teach you about my two students would always ask me, what is the protocol out here? What do I need to remember? I said, first of all, the protocol when you ride a wave is to stay out of everybody's way. When you're a beginner, go to the opposite side of where everybody is. Go on the way to the periphery. You want to be alone in your world as much as you can when you're a beginner, and then gradually filter into that environment. But observe also, when you come there, when you see a guy catching a bunch of waves, stay out of his way. He's the best guy in the environment, and he has judgment, he has protocol over everybody because he has knowledge. And by the way, if you take off in front of him, you just fucked up because the guy who's on the inside of you has possession of the wave. These are the basic laws of surfing, but by and large, they can be misjudged. And, it's all about attitude and all about observation, really.
Definitely. I would have a million of other questions for you, but the time is limited. I will just go for the last 6 questions very fast that I ask everyone on the show. So please answer. The first thing that comes up.
Answer as quick as I can.
No, okay. That's up to you. But answer the first thing that comes up to your mind.
All right.
So let's do it. The best surfboard that you ever ridden?
The best surfboard I ever rode was a board called Community Effort. And I shaped it, and another guy glassed it, another guy sanded it, another guy glossed it, and we all used it. And we all thought, this is the best board we ever rode.
Wow. It was a community project. So
we called it Community Effort. It was a great board.
Yes, definitely. And everybody shared the stock of that board.
So. Everybody did. You go, where's Community Effort? Oh, so-and-so's got it. It was always being used.
Your favorite shaper of all time?
Oh, I have a couple. Mike Diffenderfer was one. Dick Brewer was one. Terry Martin, one of the greats.
Okay.
Larry McElhaney, a real unknown guy, but very, very great shaper from Huntington Beach area back in the 70s. Maybe a couple of very beautiful boards back then. There's a lot of them, but those are the ones.
Okay. Personal question. Your favorite song or favorite kind of music?
I love all music. I come from a musical family. I play flamenco. I've been playing flamenco for 60 years, so my favorite music is flamenco.
Okay, fantastic. Your favorite surf spot?
On Lake Kauai,
Favorite surfer of all time?
Puni.
And the last question is a little bit unusual. I ask everyone on the show. I like to know your best relationship advice.
I've had three of them.
But please.
I've had three wives. Yeah, they've all been good.
And what is your best relationship advice?
Be a friend, be a lover, be loyal, be consistent, be thoughtful, compassionate, and kind.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I wish everybody would be able to respect this code. That would make our life, I'm sure, amazing. So, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate your interest.
Thank you.
Aloha. Bye con Dios.
Bye bye. Gracias. Bye bye. Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!